Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's midweek update. Got a lot to talk about because, more in the morning, the markets broke out. They actually gapped up. And question that we got from one of our members is, should we expect a rug pull in the afternoon? I am split on this decision, but I think that there's a lot for us to dig into and help to figure out which way the market is going to head. Before we dive into all that, I want to say welcome everybody. We've got a bunch of people joining us over on X, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Looks like we've got a bunch of people over here on Instagram and even on Rumble as well. Welcome everybody. Get your questions and comments and thoughts into the chat, and at least let me know where you're logging in from. That's always interesting to see and hear, because we are reaching people all over the world with this program. All that said, I'd actually like to take a moment before we take a look into the market, and I want to read you a passage from this book that I just read a moment ago. It says a little God time for men, and this gives us little one day, each day, a little passage here, and I thought that today's was profound. So here goes. It says, "Be my light. Do not gloat over me, my enemies. For though I fall, I will rise again. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light." That's from Micah. Now, it goes on to say, and this is the part that I thought was profound, especially for those of us who trade markets. "Our strength is not measured by how many times we fail. It is not calculated by the number of mistakes we make or the amount of losses we accumulate. The true measure of our strength is found in our source. If we subscribe to the system of self-reliance, the ceiling of our strength is our greatest effort. But if we put our hope in the Lord and find our strength in Him, we can rise from our failures and be fearless when darkness descends." How profound is that, right? How often as traders do we find ourselves being solely reliant on ourselves, on our analysis, and when that seems to fail, grasping at straws here and there? Don't do that. Don't rely on ourselves. This is where prayer comes into play, and it's so powerful. Let's continue. "We can fail with confidence when the Lord is the source of our strength. We can sit in the darkness knowing that the light of the Lord shines brightest in dark times. We do not have to rush out of life's struggles when we know God's strength sustains us in the shadows. The day will come when we realize that our own efforts are not enough. But the sooner we come to that realization, the sooner we can rest in the power of God and be led by the light of the Lord." Man, so much goodness in these words right here. One of my takeaways from that, it's one of the reasons why I pray every morning, and I pray multiple times throughout the day, because if I'm trying to do everything on my own, then I end up being led astray. I get tired, I get anxious, and none of that is very good at all. So the more that I pray and remember, right, because God is always here, God is always with us. The more that I pray, the more that I personally remember that He's here, and He's with me. So, all that said, let's take a look at some of the markets that we have going on here. So we had a lot of gap ups today, right? So morning, NASDAQ gapped up, and so did all the indexes here. Let's switch over to the Russell too, because the Russell gapped out of this downtrend right here. The Russell has been in a steady downtrend for a little bit, and then gapped up this morning, gapped up, how much did it gap up? It gapped up to the tune of almost 3% so far. When I took a look at the stocks that were setting up, because there's a couple of different ways that we could gauge market health and strength and all those kinds of things. One of the ways that I like to gauge market health is by taking a look at the stocks that are on my watch list. And there are a number of them that are on my watch list. I'm just trying to get uh, all the indicators up because I have a few indicators and I draw my charts a lot. So taking a look at this helps us figure out, well, what are the stocks that are setting up doing? One of the more valuable things that I look at to gauge market health are individual stocks, but not just any old individual stocks. I take a look at the stocks that are setting up, right? So every single day I will run screens. I'll take a look at the stocks that pass those screens, and then I'll take a look at the stocks that are setting up from those screens. And how those stocks end up performing tell us a lot. What it tells me is, how's the market treating the setups that I'm interested in? And so I scroll through this list here, right? And so we had Meta on that list. It broke out. It's down a little bit now. Um, Here's some others, right? ZETA. This one was on our alerts list coming into today. So far, it's had a pretty nice breakout. Let's scroll through some more of these here. Maybe I need to keep that sidebar open as I scroll through. No? All right, let's take a look then at Uber. Uber is another one that broke out. Actually gapped up this morning. The thing that I liked about Uber was that it was consolidating nice and tight right around the 50-day moving average. It popped out, gapped up, and so many of these names did that. Those two, it was just these two that I thought were fairly high quality setups, ones that I would look to take action on right away. Uh, the majority of them coming into today were mostly B and C level setups. So let's see if we could get this tab going over here. There we go. All right, so crowd, ALAR, that one broke out this morning too. Primoris broke out. So did LRCX. Seeing a lot of gap ups as I'm just flipping through these names, right? A lot of fairly strong action. A lot of these setups were not what I would consider high quality setups. The only ones that I would consider to be quality, we spoke about just a second ago in ZETA and in Uber. Now, what makes these ones quality? What makes them quality to me is having very clear entry points, very clear stop losses for both of them, right? So clear entry and a clear stop. When I'm looking at Uber, there's a very clear line in the sand to enter. It's right here. When I'm considering where should I exit, also clear right down there, right? Let's put on the annotations, and that's where I was looking to get in. Here is ZETA. Similar, right? Clear line in the sand. So let's reset the chart a little bit. Descending trend line breakout. Support right around the 21 period exponential moving average. It's clear. It's clear to me. And that's the thing that you want to be looking for too, right? Because who cares what some dude on the internet has to say about some stock? What matters is the setup clear to you? Do you have setups that are clearly defined, right? So that way you could say, oh, this stock here matches X, Y, and Z. Great. That's what you want to see. And then when the market starts to move like it did this morning, you could start to see, well, how is the market treating all these setups? So far, with so many gap ups, a lot of people are asking, are we going to have a rug pull this afternoon, right? Because our good buddy Powell is going to speak later on today. Here are a few tactics that I would use here, right? So, tactic number one, if you have a strong move in the morning, consider relieving some of that pressure. Consider selling some into strength. That's what I did with BIRK earlier this morning. It jumped up a bit. It's still fairly strong. I still have some of my position, but took some off here. TWST. This was another prime candidate as it blasted off over here to start to sell some. I missed that sell, right? Missed that one. Still holding the position. I still have my stop below support. And that's actually getting into tactic number two. We want to relieve pressure by selling some into strength, but we also want to raise our stop, keep our stop levels below support. Where is support? How do we identify support? We identify support in a couple of different ways. So let's pull up let's pull up ZETA again. Right? So what makes this support? Part of what makes it support is seeing this level be relevant on multiple time frames. Right? So it's relevant here on the daily. It's relevant here on the weekly. It also corresponded with the weekly low. Okay, well, let's zoom in on the weekly. Right, so it's right at the weekly low. And if we were to take a look at this over on the 30-minute, let's reset this and zoom out a little bit. You can see that it's a significant point over here on the 30-minute chart too. So that's one of the things that I like to look for. I like to look for multi-time frame confluence. That's one of the things that gives me the confidence when I'm looking at these charts and trying to plan out my trades. Somebody over on Instagram said that loves the confidence. This is where the confidence comes from. The confidence comes from having a plan, not just a trading plan, having a business plan. A trading plan is something that's going to be looking at just a trading plan for this trade, a trading plan for that trade, etc. Your business plan is basically telling you how you're going to operate. What kinds of things are you going to consider? What types of setups are you going to take? How are you going to manage risk? All those kinds of things. That's your business plan. By having a business plan, that's something that can help you have a lot of confidence because you're laying it all out on the table. You're really coming up with a blueprint for yourself. That's what I have. I'm actually working on another book to help you guys write your business plan for your trading. So anyhow, back on track. Let's see. So we saw that the majority of names were breaking out. We saw that we could sell some into strength. I think that one of the things to do here with the market being a touch extended, right? Well, when we were looking at the indexes are a bit extended. Here's the NASDAQ. It's very strong. The price action is very strong, but the prices are a bit extended. There's an air pocket here. So one of the things that we could do, sell into strength and raise our stop. Where would you raise your stop to on this? The answer is it depends. It depends on what your goal is. It depends on what your strategy is. If you're looking for a short-term move, and then you're probably raising your stop to today's low, right? To lock in the rest of this. Sell some here into the gap, and then maintain your cut your risk by raising your stop aggressively into the day's low. If you're looking to hold this a little bit more, you might allow price to pull back in and retest these prior highs right here. Maybe you allow it to retest the 10-day exponential moving average. All those are viable. It all depends on what your objective is. That's one of the reasons why we need to get clear on what our trading objectives are. A lot of people talk a lot of stuff on the internet. One of the things that we need to have a better understanding of are what our objectives are. If you're following somebody on the internet, you need to know what their objectives are, because most of the time people will speak with a lot of conviction but not really tell you what their objectives or motivations are. And that's one of the reasons why figuring out what our own objectives are can help guide us, right? Just like how we spoke about earlier, well, with that passage that I read. We don't need to do it alone. Well, with our trading, one of the things that can help be our guide so we're not just here clicking buttons is to have that trading business plan. So that way you're looking at a chart like this and you could say, oh, well, what do I do? Consult the plan. There you go. Let's see what questions we have coming in here. We've got a bunch of people watching all over the place. Welcome, guys, and thank you for being here with us. Let's see what questions you guys have. Yeah, so someone is asking, well, what do I think? Do I think that the rug is going to be pulled on us? Yes or no? Based on what I'm seeing, it's inconclusive, right? And I think that's one of the key things. We don't need to predict if the rug is going to be pulled or if the rug is not going to be pulled. What we need is to figure out what are the possible things that can happen. The rug could either be pulled or it could not be pulled. So we need to be prepared for both. That's the key. That's the real key right there. It's not about predicting, is it going to be pulled? Is it not going to be pulled? Be prepared for either. Right? So let's say we're looking here at the NASDAQ. Let's say that, the rug is going to be pulled. What do? Sell some into strength. Maybe raise your stop a little aggressively, depending on your time frame. Let's say the rug doesn't get pulled. What do? Same thing. You could raise your stop, raise it over here, right? So that way you're still holding some. You could sell some into strength. So that way you're still holding on to some. And either way, you're a winner. Selling half and raising your stop on half is a fantastic tactic. It's something that I learned a long, long time ago from my friend Mark Minervini. He's, if you don't know who Mark Minervini is, he's written several books. He's won 2 U.S. investing championships and is a fantastic guy. Great person to listen to. Looks like, well, we've got another question here from one of our members, Joe McGee. He says, Mike, good morning. What are your thoughts on BTC, Bitcoin? I own iBit and I'm looking for a chance to add. Where would you add? I know if the all-time high of 41.99 is broken, it's probably a buy. Well, let's take a look at iBit and we'll also take a look at Bitcoin. Right, so I like to look at Bitcoin on the daily and on the weekly. So let's start off with iBit. Right, so here's iBit. You can tell that it's been a little bit choppy. And that's one of the things with the Bitcoin and crypto ETFs. you have to deal with a lot of chop. The crypto market is a 24/7 market. So because it's a 24/7 market, you end up with ETFs that are only trading during regular trading hours, right? For stocks, it's 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time, 5 days a week. So you end up with wacky action like this. And crypto is the action in crypto is pretty wacky to begin with. So if I were looking at an ETF to trade, these are my thoughts personally. The way that I would trade a crypto ETF wouldn't be based on even a daily time frame, right? Like maybe I would consult a daily chart to fine tune my entry, but I would really be looking at the weekly for how I'm going to operate. So let's take a look at the weekly chart. All right, so here's the weekly. Things are a bit smoothed out here, right? There's a few things that I'm seeing on this. Let's get rid of some of these annotations. I think that somebody had asked me a question previously, and that's why I've got all this stuff up here. To me, this is starting to look like an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And I think that you would be right in saying that, you know what? If we break the neckline, that could constitute an entry. So if we got above, what is that? I would actually look at 40, break above 41 as a potential entry if I'm looking for a breakout with a stop down here at 37.4. That's where I would start to look. But because this is supposed to mirror Bitcoin, I would also look at Bitcoin. So let's take a look at what Bitcoin is doing. Very similar chart. That's good. So if I'm looking for to buy the breakout, a breakout above 72, a breakout above 72,000 ish would be what I would look for. At the same time, remember, I'm looking at this on a longer time scale, and so I would be looking to keep my stop below here, below the 10-week line, somewhere below, say, 65,000, maybe 64,000 on Bitcoin itself. And then if I were looking at IBIT, that translates into around 37 and a half, somewhere in that ballpark. All right. Well, what other questions do we have? Good stuff there, Joe. Just scrolling through Instagram while we're waiting for some other questions from some of these other platforms to pile in. In the meantime, wherever you are subscribed to, or wherever you're watching from, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you like the channel. We're doing a lot more streaming on these platforms. For example, like on Friday we've got the Traders Mind Chat show. That's more of a psychologically based show, mindset related show. That's going to be on this Friday over on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Let's see, any other comments or questions coming in? Oh, I should also tell you, right? That this tells you how good of a marketer I am, which basically I'm not. Make sure that you get the newsletter, marrowwealth.com/newsletter. We've been sending out newsletters a lot more frequently, right? So almost daily updates to the general list, various education-based things. Sometimes I'll throw in a trade sample that I'm doing. It could be talking a little bit more about Uber. Maybe we'll talk about Bitcoin today, go a little bit deeper on some of that. Um, all different kinds of stuff. Let's see, here's a question from I'm Third over on YouTube. When the market all gaps up like this before Powell speaks, did you buy the stock or do you wait for the report? Excellent question. Here's what I do, and here's what I did. I typically wouldn't even know that Powell would be speaking. I might sound crazy. The reason why I know that Powell's speaking is because people in my chat room mentioned that Powell's speaking. Do you think that there's going to be a rug pull? So if I'm not paying attention to those kinds of things, where am I getting my information from? I'm getting my information from the market itself. So I'm going to stop this screen share for a second, and I'm going to show you my spreadsheet. Now, some of you guys may have seen my spreadsheet before. Maybe some of you have not, but this is really what is guiding me. Right? And maybe this looks a little intimidating to some of you. Don't be intimidated by a spreadsheet. But what am I tracking here? What I'm tracking is the trends on daily, weekly, and monthly timeframes. Just saying, well, which way is price moving? Is it moving up, down, or sideways? When I can have a snapshot like this of which way is a trend moving, up, down, or sideways on each of the indexes, on each of the time frames, it tells me a lot. It lets me know if things are getting real choppy or if they're nice and smooth. You see how there's a lot of flipping back and forth between S plus, U, S plus over here, S minus, S, D. That's telling me that, whoa, there's a lot of movement on the daily indexes. So it's not giving me a nice smooth trend. It's giving me a whole lot of chop. So if the indexes are giving me a whole lot of chop, how should I respond? Should I be going in nice and heavy, or should I be pulling it back a little bit? Maybe temper those expectations, temper the sizing. So that's what that helps me to figure out over here as far as the indexes go. But it's more than just that. I'm looking at distribution. I'm looking at the number of stocks making new highs and new lows because, well, when you think about it, how can the indexes continuously make new high after new high after new high if the stocks within them are not also making new high after new high after new high? And if it's kind of thin, and lately has been pretty thin for what stocks are making new highs. And for the Nasdaq and the NYSE, there have been more new lows than new highs the last several days. So it's telling me that, sure, you can take trades, but you need to be very selective because you have more of a chance of pulling out a loser than you do a winner. Great. So what's the next step? Find the setups. Just like how we spoke about earlier, screen for a whole bunch of different things that you want to look for. I like to look for growth stocks, so I'll run a whole bunch of screens for those. Then I'll take a look at the results of those screens, and I'll look for stocks that are setting up. And I have a whole list of different setups that I look for. That's also in this spreadsheet here. Yeah, this spreadsheet, by the way, gets sent out, updated and sent to our members every single day. So here's a bunch of different setups that I'm interested in. So I'll look for setups that have all these definitions here. And then what I'll do is see, well, what's the quality of these? Am I seeing high quality setups, low quality setups? Am I seeing a lot of setups from a certain industry group? What's the deal? And so On Monday, I saw a couple of A level setups. Yesterday, coming into today, I only saw B and C level setups, so I wasn't stepping on the gas. But the stocks that I was in were already doing very well. We took a look at some of them before, right? So let's take a look at personal performance too, because personal performance is a very key thing as well. So let's share. I'll share my portfolio with you guys. Open trades. Right, so there was Nvidia, and we could just ignore this weekly bar there. It's something funky happened after hours that's still showing up there. But basically, with Nvidia, Nvidia is up about 40% from where I bought it. Burke is up about 20, almost 24, 25%. TWST, sharp pullback today. Looks like it's rebounding. Up roughly, let's measure this, 16%. ERJ, this one's underwater. This one's at about almost a 2% loss. Here's Meta. Meta I bought yesterday. Meta right now is up about 1%. And so if I see a high quality setup, I will take the high quality setup. If I don't see a high quality setup, then I won't take it. And it's pretty much as simple as that. Now, there's a couple of other things that make something a high quality setup. We need to define what a high quality setup is. Otherwise, we'll just be buying anything, or you hear me, or maybe you hear somebody else that's screaming about some stock, right? Like, you won't really hear me screaming about a stock, but maybe you hear somebody that's just pounding the pavement. Yeah, this one is great. This is the greatest leader. The technology, the AI, all this stuff, it's going to the moon. And then you get all excited, and then you go and you just buy it because it happens to be moving. And because, well, this guy over here said that it's a great one, and he seemed pretty excited about it, so you hop on board. You don't want to do that. Well, what you want to have is your clear definition of what it is that you're looking for. And then if it fits that, then you buy that. So very long-winded answer to your question. I'm third, but hopefully that was helpful for you. Let's see what else we've got. Joe says, if no one else is asking, yeah, just pile the questions on. Yeah, just type into the chat as many questions as you want, and I'm here to help, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Although we are a couple of minutes over here, but that's okay. So Joe has a question in here. Joe said that I have one more. I bought a starter position in Google today. It's put in a tail bar, which means that it pulled back. Thoughts on where to add? All right, so let's pull up Google and we'll see. All right, here's Google. Yeah, that's well, when Price does this, I used to not be real pleased with it when Price would do this soon after. And the reason why I would get a little like, well, what's this thing doing, is because I used to be in the habit of buying something and then sitting there and watching it like this. Just sit and stare and see, is it making me money? Is it making me money? No, it's coming down. Oh man, I shouldn't have bought that. Maybe I should have waited. And then all the little voices right there, they all start talking like, oh, hey, you shouldn't have, hey, you should only buy at the end of the day. You should make sure that volume is there. You know, you shouldn't buy before 10:30, right? Amateur hour, those kinds of things. What I started to do is just again rule out all that stuff and then draw up well what's going to be my operating plan? How am I going to do this? And then measure myself against that. So the way that I would have entered this would have been probably similar to how you entered it, just buying the breakout, well, the moment that it broke out. Right, I'm not in this one, but if I would have bought it, I probably would have bought it at just above the break of this high here, 177.67. So like right there, let's say. And I'd also want to take a look at it on a 30-minute because sometimes you'll find an area of support or resistance right down here. So let's drill in on this a little bit. Yeah, I probably would have bought in right there. And so far, price gapped up. Now so far, it's squatting. So what I would want to see, or where, or let's see, well, what was the questions here? Well, would I add on this? Would I add? If price can make a U-turn, right? So let's say that I bought half a position and I wanted to see, well, should I add the rest? What I might do in this case would be, all right, price gapped up. Now it's squatting a bit. How does this squat maneuver, right? Does it keep on falling like this, right? Like down this way? Or do we get a U-turn where it starts to come back up through here? If it can make the U-turn, then maybe I'm adding on that U-turn and then having a stop just below there. So that way the risk on the add is minuscule. That's what I would do with that one. Somebody riding a motorcycle outside. I've got my windows open. I apologize. Yeah, that's basically what I think I would do with Google here at this point. Feel free to ask a follow-up question on that. Let's see. Keep it simple. Welcome, welcome. How can one make a journal when they have no coding skills? Uh, I am in the process of creating my journal. Any advice? Yes. So I don't have any journaling or I don't have any coding skills either. And meanwhile, I've made my journal in Google Sheets. So if you want to take a look at this, right? Here's my journal. So I have my open positions. I have most of this is text notes in here. There's a couple of numbers that are formulas in here, right? But nothing too complicated, like figuring out, well, how much am I risking per share? What percentage am I risking per share? Um, Reward, right? Like none of these formulas here are extremely complicated. What's the reward to risk ratio? This is probably the most complicated one because I'm pulling a number from Google Finance, right? But that's not even that complicated. It's just pulling the number from Google Finance, and if it's not found there, then uh, it defaults over to FinViz. But yeah, you don't even need to do that. If you're able to pull your number from Google Finance, then that's fine. But yeah, no, all this stuff is fairly basic Excel type formulas. So if you're building a spreadsheet, you don't need to be a coder for any of that. That's well, what you see there is about as complex as it gets. And then I just have different lists on here, right? So I've got my action list, a focus list. I like to keep track of stocks that are quote unquote in the neighborhood that are getting close to setting up. Setup list from the weekend. Uh, I'll track sector leaders. So, uh, not to get too deep into the weeds, but sector leaders are ones that are in strong industry groups or improving industry groups. And then the ones that get highlighted are the leaders of said groups. Right, all my different lists over here. Closed trades, going way back, some stats, some monthly tracking, danger signals. Well, we actually coded this. This one I hired a coder. This guy Brennan Shapiro. Shout out to him, and we put it on TradingView. Right, so for the most part, all this stuff is free text. So yeah, you don't really need to be a coder to get this in. So if you're creating your own journal, you could do a spreadsheet. If you want my journal and to make a copy of it and then use that as yours, you could sign up for one of our memberships. Well, we have a free 2-week trial for the research program. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a message and I'll get you hooked up. If you would prefer to use software, right? That's another workaround, right? Like, don't bother coding anything yourself. Just buy some journaling software. I've used, and a number of our members use Edgewonk. Edgewonk is fantastic. So those are some options out there for you. And we are about 10 minutes over, so we'll wrap things up here. I want to say thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been great as always. And the next show is going to be this Friday, the Traders Mind Chat show. So make sure that you go over to YouTube, like and subscribe for the channel, hit the notification bell, and wherever you are watching, make sure that you do those things too. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care. Much love. God bless.